Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance is provided by TLC, Oklahoma's leading garden center, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, Tulsa's source for great gardens, southwoodgardencenter.com. and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. On today's program, we have tips to help you make any needed repairs to your lawn this spring. Extension Turfgrass Specialist Justin Moss joins host Casey Hentges with tips on when to repair an area with seed and when to use sod. They also tackle a lawn repair on a slope. And Casey has a robotic mower that will keep your entire lawn looking beautiful.
We're starting to look at our lawn and see some spots, or maybe we want to redo our lawn completely. Joining me today is Justin Moss, our Turfgrass Extension Specialist, and we're going to look at the pros and cons of seed versus sod and how to choose which type to start our lawn. So we have a couple of different things here. We've got some seed, but first, what do we need to look at on our yard?
So first of all, we want to figure out what type of grass we have in the yard, and many times in Oklahoma, it's going to be Bermuda grass, maybe some tall fescue in some shady areas and things like that. A little bit of zoysia and buffalo grass out there, but I would say 90% of the time we're dealing with Bermuda grass.
Okay, and so if we have Bermuda grass, how do we decide whether to put seed down or to put sod down? Are there certain site specifications we need to look at?
Sure, sometimes it's up to the user and what they want to use. And so if you look at cost, sometimes the seed can be cheaper initially to install and the sod's a little bit more expensive to install. However, with the seed, there's going to be some maintenance involved where you've got to water it and fertilize it and get it to grow in. With the sod, it's more like an instant lawn.
Okay.
And then you have to think about what type of area are we dealing with. Is it a flat area? It's really easy to do seed or sod. If we have a sloped area, we have to be careful about how we do that. We can still seed or sod it, but sometimes sodding is a little bit easier on the slopes, just because you can get that instant cover, and you can even stake it down with some sod staples and hold it in place. Whereas with seed, you can still put it down, maybe mulch it, or put some seed cover cloth over it. But if you get a heavy rain, that seed's just going to wash away.
Okay, and also the time of year, that can play into whether seed or sod, right?
For sure. So with Bermuda grass in Oklahoma, the prime time of the year is going to be in the springtime. So say May or June, something like that. You can actually still seed or sod during July or even into August. Now, once you start getting into late July into August, if you could sod it, you'd be better off, because then you have something established. You still want to get some roots down, hopefully, before the freeze comes. But if you're seeding, say, July 15th or August 1st, you're probably not going to get that up all the way before the end of the growing season. So sod would be the ideal choice the later you go. But what you'd rather do, either seeding or sodding, come out maybe May or June and get that done.
Okay, and what do we have here? We've got a couple of different seeds, and this one's kind of colorful.
That one is colorful. So that one is actually a treated seed, and it's just treated with a fungicide. And so that's what gives it the purple color. But that is Bermuda grass seed, and it's a specific cultivar called Riviera. Now, Riviera was actually developed at Oklahoma State University, and it was developed because it has good turf quality, so it looks good in the lawn, but also it has improved cold tolerance. And so Bermuda grass is a warm season grass, and for the most part can tolerate winters in Oklahoma, but maybe 3-4 out of 10 winters on some common Bermuda grasses, it's going to die out just because it can't take the cold weather. Well, with something like a Riviera, one of these improved types, they've been bred to withstand those cold temperatures.
Okay.
And here you see that, this one's just purple because it has fungicide. Then we have another common type of Bermuda grass here that is just brown, and that is called Wrangler Bermuda grass. And so with this particular sample, just because it's brown doesn't necessarily mean it's not treated, but sometimes if it is brown, that maybe means it's not treated. Or it could be hulled or unhulled, and basically that means it could have a cover on it, or those covers have been kind of torn off before they packaged it up for you.
Okay, and so what does that mean versus treated versus untreated regarding our seeding rate?
So we would typically seed Bermuda grass at 1 to 2 pounds of pure live seed per 1,000 square feet. And so pure live seed just simply means you look at the tag on the package that the seed comes in, and you're going to see a germination rate and you're going to see a purity rate. And if you take those two together, you'll get a pure live seed.
Okay.
And so if we have a treated seed, though, you may have this extra material on it, right? The fungicide or whatever. So it may weigh a little bit different. So I see you have an example for us, so maybe you can tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, so when you're dealing with untreated seed, you have about a pound per 1,000 square feet. So you can see these golf balls kind of represent untreated seeds. Now, if you have treated seeds, you're actually going to need to put down a heavier rate, about 2 pounds per 1,000 square feet, because you don't actually get as much seed because of the inert material, the treatment, the coat. So pretend this is your seed and you've got your fungicide treatment or whatever treatment on there. You've got less seed going down per area. So you can see here you're going to need about 2 pounds per 1,000 square foot for the treated seed, such as Riviera.
That's right. So your pure live seeding rate is the same. It's just you have to weigh out more of this material because of the added fungicide and everything.
Okay, excellent. So when you're looking at seed versus sod, is there a reason that you might choose sod? I mean, is all the same grass available in both?
Yeah, so like these seeded varieties that we have here are actually sometimes not even available as a sod. And so when you purchase a Bermuda grass cultivar, let's say a seeded cultivar, what you want to do is look at the package, and there should be a blue seed tag on it. And then what that means, that blue tag means it's been certified by the local certification agency. And so if that seed is certified seed, you know that what you're buying is what you're getting. Now there's a lot of Bermuda grass seed out there that won't have tags on it, and it may say VNS, or it may say common Bermuda grass, or it may say other things. It may even say U3 Bermuda grass. But if it doesn't have the blue tag on it, really you don't know what you're getting.
Okay.
And so our recommendation is to use certified seed. And what that can do is it can help you to get kind of these unique traits that maybe the grasses have been bred for. So even if you have a common Bermuda grass lawn, you can come in with like a Riviera, and you don't have to seed your whole lawn, but you just have some bare spots or maybe some weak areas. You can do what's called interseeding and just kind of put it in there. Even though you've already got some grass cover there, you interseed this improved grass, and then over time it will kind of slowly take over. And you can even do that once a summer as you get bare spots to fill it in.
So if you mix it, the consistency and the color and the texture will be consistent throughout your lawn, but you're also saving money actually, because to do a whole lawn in a premium Bermuda grass might be a little bit expensive.
Yeah, it could be expensive, and if you were going to do it right, you need to really go kill out your whole lawn first. So coming in and interseeding is a way to save some money. It takes a lot longer for it to actually maybe come to this type, and there are some differences, but if you blend it, you don't see those differences as readily.
Excellent.
And now with other grasses, they only come as sod, and so what we're dealing with is like a common Bermuda grass or Cynodon dactylon. You can get seed from it. But some of our hybrids are interspecific hybrids. I mean, they're hybrids between common Bermuda grass and African Bermuda grass. You put those two together, you get what's called a sterile triploid hybrid. And what that basically means is those grasses actually don't produce viable seeds. So the only way you can propagate those is through sod or sprig, something like that. And so with those types, you can only get sod. So you really have to do some study and maybe talk to your extension educator about, okay, which type is for me, and does that come as a seed or a sod? It takes a little bit of investigation, and it's good because that way you can't be tricked. And somebody's trying to sell you a certain type of grass seed, and well, hey, that plant doesn't produce seed. What are you trying to do to me here?
Right.
And it can try to save you, maybe save you some money and save you some headaches down the road.
That's a good tip, and you will immediately know whether you need to do seed or sod potentially.
That's right.
Based on which type. Okay, one last thing I want to ask about irrigation. How long does it take to establish seed versus sod?
Yeah, so the seeding can take, 30 days to really get a decent cover. And so during that 30 days, you're going to have to water daily basis, and at the very beginning, maybe even 2 or 3 times a day. Let's say you seed it May 15th and you put some irrigation down and get some rains. It's not as hard to get going, and you don't have to irrigate as much. But let's say you seed it July the 1st and high pressure set over, and it's not going to rain for 2 weeks. You're going to have to water that 2-3 times a day to keep it going. With sod, you've got a little bit more room for error because you do have a little bit of base of rhizomes and stolons in there with the Bermuda grass sod, but still you're going to have to really baby it, so to speak, for the first week or two, and then maybe water it once a day, twice a day.
Excellent. Now we know seed versus sod.
Correct.
So Justin, we have a bare patch here in our lawn that we need to fix. How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, so this is very common. Get a lot of questions about this. Have a bare area in an already established lawn. Just need to fill in some spots. And so here what we're going to do is prepare it for applying some Bermuda grass seed to fill in this spot.
Okay.
And so what we want to do, as you see here, as you've already done, is to kind of rake it up, clean it up, remove any rocks or tree limbs or grass that was already growing here, and kind of get everything out of the way, get it raked in, get it packed down a little bit so you have a nice clean and firm and smooth seed bed. So that's what we want to do to get it ready.
Okay, and you want it packed down enough so that you're not leaving footprints in it, correct?
That's right. If you can walk across it and you're leaving really deep footprints, you need to pack it down just a little bit more just to get that kind of firm and clean seed bed prepared. This Bermuda grass seed's pretty small, and if it's too fluffy, that seed will just disappear right down into the soil.
Okay.
And sometimes that fluffy soil, if you do get any watering in or rain, it can just really be loose and wash away.
Okay, so are we ready to put seed down?
We're ready here.
And
yes.
how much do we put down? How do we determine that?
So we're going to use Riviera Bermuda grass seed, and that is a coated seed. And so what we're going to do is do 1 to 2 pounds of pure live seed per 1,000 square feet. And so for this particular seed, we're going to have to put down 2 pounds of the actual seed per 1,000 square feet, which is going to give us an actual seeding rate of about 1 pound per 1,000 square feet.
Okay, all right. And so we've got about 100 square feet here.
Yeah, so 100 square feet, so we're just going to take 1/10 of that. So if our target was 2 pounds per 1,000 of Riviera seed, we're going to try to put 0.2 pounds or 3.2 ounces here.
Okay, so I've got that loaded up over here in our little whirly bird. So I just need to walk around and kind of spread that?
Yeah, so one way you can do it is you can actually just, you've got 100 square feet, you know how much seed you need, so you can actually just weigh that out and then spread it evenly over the area. That's one way to do it. Another way, say if you were doing a larger area, you'd actually want to calibrate a seed spreader before you went out and did the job. And but for this job, it's just a small one. You could do it using a whirlybird, or even if you had nothing else, you could even do it by hand. You just want to make sure it's evenly spread across the whole area.
Okay, excellent. Well, we'll get this seeded then.
Okay.
So Justin, we need to rake it in and tamp it so that we make sure we have good seed to soil contact. And then what do we need to do?
That's right. Then we have to think about fertility. And so we've done a soil test here, and we're a little bit low on nitrogen, so we're going to have to add nitrogen. We want to do that right now at the same time too. And so really there's no right or wrong way to do this. You can put the seed down, you can put the fertilizer down and rake it in, or you can put the fertilizer down first and then put the seed down and rake it in. The point is, as long as if you're seeding, do your soil test, check the fertility, put the fertilizer down now too. But then we've got to think about watering this in and starting to get it established.
Okay, so when we're watering, how often are we going to need to water it?
Yeah, so if we're going to seed this in the spring or summertime, we really want to keep a moist seed bed through germination. So that could be watering it every day for 10 to 14 days, and then maybe backing off to every other day as you start to see the seedlings come up and it starts to get established.
Excellent. Now we know the steps to seeding our lawn. When you think about turf grass, you imagine a lush green yard, but often this isn't our reality. We often have problems that we're dealing with or patches that need to be repaired. Today we're going to look at how to repair those holes with sod. Hi Justin, what do we have here?
We have some sod. We have some beautiful sod.
Yes.
And there's actually a couple different species of grasses here, but we have in these larger rolls here some Bermuda grass sod, just some common Bermuda grass sod.
Right.
And then in the smaller slabs here, just some tall fescue sod to show as an example. And you can see, you know, as a homeowner, you might be able to get different types, different sizes of sod.
Does Bermuda typically come in a roll and your fescue comes in a slab, correct?
That would typically be the case.
Okay.
And since we just have a small job today, we have you know, just a smaller roll that you can actually pick up and handle with your hands.
Okay, excellent. And now sometimes we see this netting on the sod.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Not a good thing, right?
Well, it can be a good
Okay.
thing. So like when we have a grass like tall fescue here, you know, it doesn't make a good sod, so to speak. So to make a good sod, you want to have a couple of grass structures, and one of those is an underground stem called a rhizome, and another is an above ground stem called a stolon. Well, the tall fescue can have very, very short rhizomes, but for the most part really doesn't have either rhizomes or stolons. So the sod grower will actually grow it on net to help hold it together, so like when you pick it up and move it around, it doesn't fall apart.
Right.
Bermuda grass does have the rhizomes and stolons, so it can make a good sod with or without the netting. A lot of times the companies will still use the netting for various purposes, but you just have to be careful. The bad thing with this is if you put this netting down, it will degrade over time, but it can also, you know, come up and as the grass is getting established, and it can trip you or get caught in your mower and things like that. So if you don't have to use it, don't use it, but there's a lot of times where you have to use it just to hold your sod together.
You have to cut it out sometimes too.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. All right, so we've got a little area here that we want to repair. It's on a slope, so we're hoping that sod will work better rather than having the seed wash off. What do we need to do to prepare the bed?
So basically just want to create an area that is clean and smooth, somewhat firm, and weed free as much as possible. And so we're basically trying to you know, prepare it for planting. So we want to prepare it just like we would whether we're seeding or sodding or what have you. Get a nice clean weed free and firm seed bed, or in this case sod bed, and then we're ready to go.
Okay, excellent. So we're ready to lay the sod now.
We're ready to lay it. So basically we have this area raked up and ready to go. It is on the slope here, and so it's not a bad slope, but it's at the edge of this pavement here, so you're going to get a lot of runoff from the roadway. So what we're actually going to do is we'll put some pieces of this sod down, and we're going to kind of stack it so that the joints do not match up. We don't want them to match up, so we kind of offset the pieces of
like
sod.
a brick pattern.
Kind of like a brick pattern. And then we're actually even going to put some sod staples down to hold it in place so that it doesn't wash away in case we get a big rain before it's fully established.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we've got our sod all stabilized. We laid it across the slope so that it wouldn't sag. What do we need to do next?
So now it's time to think about maybe rolling this or just walking over it, since it's just such a small area to tamp that sod down in place. And then we need to water it and fertilize it.
Okay.
And so we have, you know, taken a look at a soil test, and this area here needs a little bit of nitrogen. The other nutrients are fine on it, so that's going to dictate what type of fertilizer we use. And we have a couple of typical homeowner products that you might see. These are easy because you can actually water and fertilize at the same time. You stick it on your water hose and turn the dial and go.
Right.
But the formulations on these are a little bit different. One of these has everything. It has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The other one just has nitrogen and a little bit of potassium, but no phosphorus at all.
Right.
And our soil test shows that, well, actually we don't need phosphorus, so we're going to choose a fertilizer with no phosphorus.
Okay, so even though it says it's a grass starter, you might not need everything that's in there.
That's right. It's always important to do your soil test, read the labels on the fertilizer, and just fertilize according to need, not according to a marketing scheme.
Okay, excellent. So how often should we be watering?
So we got to water this quite often. It's new sod. and it has this very shallow layer, a little bit of roots in there, but not much. So what we got to do is keep that wet so it doesn't dry out. And probably we're going to have to water this maybe twice a day during the hot days, and back off to watering just once a day and eventually once every other day, and so on and so forth, till maybe, hopefully after it gets established, just watering it maybe once or twice per week.
And how long should it take to get it established?
Not very long with sod here. It's going to grow in quite quickly, and within 2 to 4 weeks, it's going to be pretty well established, and you can really start backing off in that watering at that time.
Okay, and again, this is just to patch this small area. You would use some of the same practices to do a whole lawn as far as laying it in a brick pattern, but you would really want to make sure that you're working with a clean surface when you're laying that sod. So we have a little bit left over. How long will that last on the pallet?
Yeah, so we have quite a few rows left, and let's say you have another small area in your lawn where you'd like to try to patch it up. Certainly you could try to plant that right away. Let's say maybe you can't get to that for 2 or 3 days. That's fine. Just make sure you water that sod on the pallet to keep it moist. Don't let it dry out. Don't store it in the full sun for those 2 or 3 days. Put it somewhere in a shady spot, and maybe even keep it covered to help it to stay moist and not dry out. Now, if you leave it on there a week or 2 weeks and you try to go lay it out, I've seen it come back before, but it's very likely that sod may be done for if you leave it on there too long.
Excellent. Well, now we know how to repair our turf. Thank you, Justin.
Excellent work.
This is Jeremy Williams with Husqvarna. Thank you for joining us, Jeremy. And you are going to tell us about a new gardener that we have here at the Botanic Gardens in Stillwater. What is this guy going to do for us?
Well, this is a robotic lawnmower. Thanks for having me, by the way. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's an automatic lawnmower. It gives you more time to spend with your family and friends and do the things that you want to do instead of mowing the grass.
Really? Okay, so how does this work? It automatically knows what to do, and how does it stay in the lawn area?
Well, it actually has a charging station over there. I don't know if you can see it, but we set out a perimeter fence around all the different beds. We don't want it obviously mowing through the beds and things, but it stays inside of that, and it travels to it, turns around, comes back, and it's kind of the grazing animal approach, so it doesn't follow a pattern. It's more of a random deal, but it hits all the lawn and it looks good.
So it's like one of those remote vacuums, sort of. It just kind of bounces off of the boundaries and stays
very
within
similar.
the lawn.
Yep.
Okay, and so when you say fence, we're not actually seeing a fence. It's just a
small little wire, like a 14 gauge wire that we've staked along the perimeter here.
Okay, so as far as safety goes, what if you have kids and things like that, or if neighborhood kids want to come up and play with us? How do we make sure they stay safe?
Well, it's the cutting area is much narrower than the body of the machine, so they're not going to be run over by it and that kind of thing. It also has a very small blade, and it pivots too, so it's not as nearly as dangerous as, say, a regular lawnmower. I've got 2 small kids at the house. I've got one at the house, and so far everything's good.
Okay, and it will actually kind of bump and stop if it bumps into something.
It's got sensors in it where this model will actually slow down. It actually has sonar in it, so it'll actually slow down before it hits that. But yeah, it'll bump into you or an object and back up and go away.
Okay, so it's capable of going to any size lawn, depending on the size of fencing that you put around
we've got models that will do a small, or that will only do up to 1/3 of an acre, where this model will do 1.25 acres.
Oh wow, that would save you a lot of time.
A lot of time.
And so it'll be going day, night, 110 degrees.
Exactly.
As long as the grass is growing, it can still.
And you can set the amount of time that it mows based off what you're seeing in the lawn and that kind of thing. So if you've got this is the largest model that we have, and we're in a small area here, so we actually have to slow it down quite a bit. So only allowed to run, I think, an hour a day. So
how long will the battery last on this?
Depending on the models, I mean, the one at my house will run about 50 minutes before it decides it's tired, and then it'll either find the charging station, or it'll go to the perimeter fence and follow it all the way to the charging dock. So this model will run over 2 hours.
So it won't just die somewhere. It knows it needs to recharge, and it knows when to take a break.
It's ready for a break, and it knows it, and it'll go back.
Okay, excellent. And the other thing is you can actually hook it up to your phone.
That's right. From this, start it or stop it.
So it has just the slightest hum. You could hear it powering up.
Yep, it's very quiet. I just stopped it there, but you can actually stop it, in instances where, say you've got your lawn guy that's coming in and he's going to do a turf application on your yard. You can actually stop it, send it back to the dock. You can send it to park also.
So Jeremy, if it randomly goes around and mows your lawn, how do you know what has been mowed and what maybe has been missed?
Well, that's one thing from the app that you can see where it's actually traveled to.
Okay.
And where if there's a spot that maybe it's not getting to, you can see that too and adjust.
Oh, okay. And so what about security purposes if your lawnmower happens to go astray?
Well, one thing about it, if there's an alarm on the machine, so if someone picks up your automower and takes it outside of the fence, a large alarm will sound and it's deafening.
Okay. And can you track it through GPS as well?
You can, actually. You can see where the mower is at all times from your phone.
So even if it's not in the perimeter of your lawn, you could go track it down
that's
if your neighbor decided to mow his lawn with it.
That is right.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you for showcasing this with us, and it will be here at the Botanic Gardens for everyone to stop by and enjoy.
Next week on Oklahoma Gardening, we revisit our tour of Southeast Oklahoma with segments about traditional usage of plants and other natural resources by the Choctaw people. So join us then for more TV You'll Grow to Love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.